everybody. Welcome to the Tap in Indy podcast. Look, I'm Nick McDaniel, and as you probably noticed, this is not Heath Mulligan. And kind of want to set the table a little bit before I introduce who our special co-host is this week. Heath got a promotion at work. His schedule's going to be rocky here for the next probably 6 to 8 weeks. So I've decided to do a little bit. I'm gonna steal a page from the Busted Open format and bring in some different people from across the state. And this week, Matt, listen, welcome to the show, Matt Griffin from Action Wrestling. Wanted to have you on because you just have a ton of stuff going on over the last week. Let's lead with some of the big stuff right out of the gate before we get you going. PWI?
Yeah, it hits as we tape this. It's going to hit this morning. If you see Chelsea Green on the cover, you'll also read about Action Wrestling and our Dean 2 show that happened in conjunction with Ring of Honor. There's a story in there about that show that was before the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. There's a feature on Tim Bosby, our Action Wrestling World Champion. There's results and rankings. So Action is all over Pro Wrestling Illustrated this month, which is very cool to see. I don't know the last time a Georgia independent promotion had as much press, so definitely want to take advantage. Very proud of that. Very, very happy to see that.
Yeah, and if you're out there, you see it on the shelves, man, take advantage of that. And another thing we strongly encourage you to take advantage of this week is, hey, jump on over to patreon.com/taptoutpod. Because why do you want to be a member there? Because, hey, it's simple, guys. We always tell you, free content's there. The paid content, even at the $1 level, you get the show notes. The $5 levels, you get the weekly shows early. Typically, it's fully a full day early. $10, anything we do, including something special. I'm actually recording later this afternoon. That'll be on there as well. And, of course, at the $10 and $25 levels, we have those tapped out collectibles that are exclusive only to the members at those $10 and $25 levels, man. Well, Matt, have you've seen some of those tapped out collectibles and how unique they are? I know you've actually been privy to seeing one of those posts for yourself.
I have. Those are very neat. And if you're into independent wrestling, it's a really cool keepsake that's very unique. And I think you limit them pretty harshly, so they're not something that's available widely.
Yeah, we don't sell them at all. They're only available to our $25 tier members and up. So literally, if we have a month where we have 10, that's it. I make 10, and that's it. So it's super exclusive, and we've had some fun ones. Even QT Marshall, who will be on later today. I'm going to record something special with him. And then somebody who's kind of not really necessarily your friend. Sunny Days was the exclusive for the month of July.
Oh, we were doing so well on this podcast. We were doing so well.
Well, look, speaking of doing well, let's get to the positive stuff. Let's get into before we get into our weekly show, I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about Friday. You've got, Action took a little break. It's been gone but I know you didn't. We're going to get into what you've been up to. But Action had a little bit of a break there, but you are returning in Fayetteville this Friday. Big show coming right out of the gate.
Yeah, we are back in Fayetteville at the Line Creek Brewing Bus Barn. Due to scheduling, we hadn't been able to be back there since January. It's a great fun. I mean, we have our own separate room at the brewery, similar to the way One Fall just had the Freedom Works incoming a couple weeks ago. And they got a lot of really good beers. They're really good hosts for us. And we have been able to have some really exciting shows. So I'm fired up. It's been too long. I like going back there every 2 months, and I'm very excited that we get to be back, and we're back on a regular schedule with them. We've got 4825, Jade Newman and Jamison Shook, the independent tag team champions of the world. And they're defending the titles against the Ugly Sucklings, Rob Killjoy and White Mike. We've got Cruel against Moses. We've got Coven of the Goat with Tank and Nathan Mowry in that iteration, managed by the Rev, debuting against the Carnies. And we've got a world title defense, the Action Wrestling World Championship. Tim Bosby defending against Landon Hale, returning to Georgia.
Would you make a case, because I know Landon Hale, arguably one of the best indie wrestlers that's in the country right now. A lot of people, speak so highly of him. It's tough, I know, because Tim Bosby has kind of had a literally a murderer's row of challengers here. But would you make a case that this might be his toughest challenge to date?
It's a really tough challenge. I mean, you had Cruel challenge Tim in April, and Tim was able to sneak out a nefarious, let's say, win. But things catch up with you, and Friday night at the Scenic City Invitational, Cruel beat Tim Bosby. So he's coming in. He's coming in a little injured, you might say. And it's no secret that Landon Hale is back in the Southeast now. He had left for several years to explore his professional career as a doctor, and he's back. So he's going to be able to appear quite a bit more for promotions that want to have him in. I think it's a real tough test. Landon Hale's a very, very spirited performer. And if you were to make the list of the 10 hardest chops in independent wrestling, Gary J is consistently at the top. But the dark horse that keeps being brought up to me as to who hits really freaking hard is Landon Hale. And you never know when you can catch someone.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge challenge for Tim Bosby, like you said. Obviously, especially following that absolutely brutal match there at SCI. I don't want to segue too far. We'll come back to the show on Friday, but I do want to ask you. You bring up SCI a little bit. Let's talk about that. That's kind of kept you busy. I know you're really heavily involved with that. The whole weekend, because it's not just a day or literally it's an entire weekend full of events. Let's get at a little bit about SCI, kind of what it means, because it's kind of grown over the years to be a huge thing. Like one of the big things friend of the show, Rob Rod, we always talk about, hey, I want to go, but it's getting harder and harder to get hotels because of SCI. Like it's literally becoming, a challenge just to go to. And that's why you want to get your tickets early. You want to get your hotel early, all of that stuff. You go ahead and lock it in as soon as there's a date. And, but what is kind of SCI like for people that maybe don't kind of know a little bit about SCI, kind of educate them a little bit about the SCI?
Yeah, so the Scenic City Invitational started in 2015. It's tied to and known to being a Chattanooga, Tennessee promotion, but it actually, its first year was held in Rossville, Georgia. Partnered with then Empire Wrestling, and they had a 16-person tournament, and the goal was to go ahead and bring together the best wrestlers in the region, along with some of the best independent wrestlers traveling. It was the brainchild mainly of Scott Hensley, who has been my partner the last several years in running it, and Ace Rockwell, formerly tag wrestler in Pomp and Circumstance, very accomplished wrestler in his own right. He stepped back several years ago, but it was their brainchild in 2015, along with several others contributing. It was a really strong opening year. That tournament was won by Jimmy Rave, and it kind of became a staple in 2016. It was held in a high school on a Friday night and a Saturday night in the Chattanooga area. We had tons of traveling fans come in that year, and that's when it really was established in year two, when so many people came into town. We had a lot of proponents of, hey, come to Chattanooga and hang out, watch wrestling. With the Hales family, Dylan, Papa, Dustin, and Devin, they were really active in, hey, you should come to this. You should come to this. And so many people did. Hung out at a hotel that had a 24-hour restaurant. And I remember in 2016 at 5 a.m. doing interviews about SCI. And that was after night two. And every year we have people who come in. We have travelers in this past year from Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Louisville, Kentucky, Las Vegas, Nevada. Last year we had fans travel in from Japan and Germany for Daniel Makabe's retirement match. So it's really become a big thing. It's watched on IWTV. Wrestlers from other regions want to take part in it, and I think that's what the biggest deal is. It exposes the Southeast and wrestlers down here to other areas, and we're able to go ahead and network. We had We had Channing Thomas and Sidney Bacabella come in from Massachusetts. We had Vinny Massaro come in from California. We had a lot of different wrestlers come in from a lot of different areas, and when you're able to do that, you bring a lot of, it's a big melting pot. You really will see what happens, and it's usually a very fun weekend. And we also have an action feature showcase that was won by Tommy Davis out of the St. Louis area, and there's just so many things that happen in a weekend. So many wrestlers can get on different radars. I always come away from SCI with a list of wrestlers from the tournament and from futures that I want to work with again. And it's a very special time. You have wrestlers who come in from other areas who enjoy the Southeast and want to come back. And sometimes they want to bring wrestlers who were at the tournament that they met from the Southeast to other states, to other territories. And that's a big deal because my goal is to not just promote wrestling in the Southeast, have people from other areas watch it, see these wrestlers in the Southeast, and then push them out, get them into other regions.
Yeah, look, I don't want to sidebar, but I literally had a conversation with a wrestler, this weekend. I'll say his name, Bryce Cannon, who was like, "Hey, man, listening, taking the advice, put a bunch of miles on the car, went to Florida, went to South Carolina, hey, I get it. You have to get out if you're trying to expand and, but if you're serious about your career, my personal opinion, you cannot just wrestle in Georgia forever. Like, you've got to get out and you've got to hit these other places where you're seen. And kudos to him, by the way, for doing that. But that's kind of one of the things that's always intrigued me, and I've really, liked about SCI is it feels like it does a couple things. They do a good mixture of like, hey, we're going to bring in a Cruel, a Colby Carina, or, some names that are like, hey, it'll draw some eyes in, but then we're going to bring in some youth that we're trying to, to elevate and help get, grow there and expand their career. It's a really cool thing in wrestling when you can pull off both of those things. Because it typically seems most shows are like, hey, let's just bring in as many stars as we can try to get in here to sell tickets. Or it's like, hey, it's all young and we're going cheap and we're trying to go all young. And then you're like, okay, but then it's harder to sell to bring in the casuals and the masses. That's one of the things, again, like I said, I really like about SCI is it does a good mixture of that. And it's a huge event every year without question. It's already literally the weekend it's over, we start getting the questions of like next year. But I like it. A lot of times it very much feels like a launching point as well. We discussed it a little bit last week on last week's show, and I said SCI can kind of go one of two ways. It's solidifying a guy who's already kind of up there, or it feels like a launching point for somebody to use as a catapult to shoot their career, into the, elevate himself. So that's just my take on it. That's just one of the things I really like about SCI, that it can be used for both purposes.
Yeah, even the futures tournament, if you look back at the fields, not even the feature matches, if you just take the fields of 9 every year, you will look back and see names who have contracts, plenty of names who have contracts who've been a part of it. The very first winner of the futures tournament was Marco Stun. Just a couple weeks after winning, he was on GCW, I think that was called the Lost in New York show. And not long after that, he attracted the attention of All Elite Wrestling, and his career was off to the races. And I'm not going to attribute it to what we do, but we really do try to focus on people who are the future. We don't just say that. We want to be part of the greater ecosphere of professional wrestling in the landscape of the entire country. I do love Southeast wrestling. I do love it. I do love Georgia wrestling, but I want to go ahead and have wrestlers not just be seen here. I want them to be seen elsewhere. That's why IWTV is such a huge deal and such a huge partner. That's why shows like when we did the Southeast First show was a big deal. That attracted attention throughout the country. I have wrestlers who want to drive in from hundreds of miles away and to be a part of action wrestling. And I want to keep encouraging that because I want that to be able to send cars of wrestlers out that way. So, I want it to be a part of the landscape.
Well, let's dive into one of the landscape topics for the week here in Georgia. Look, we're not going to get into it a lot, as super detailed maybe as some people think, because of connections and things like that. But big news out of Georgia this week. And first and I do want to preface, like, I'm going to make the announcement. Obviously, Gary Lamb, Southern Honor Wrestling, they kind of announced that the Action Building, they will lose that building at the end of September. First and foremost, I personally want to say, like, hey, let's all respect the fact that this is a church. First and foremost, it's kind of their issue. We're going to talk about it from a wrestling perspective because that's what we do here on this show. But be respectful for that first part, first and foremost. But now, as far as the silly wrestling side of it, kind of thing, kind of changes the landscape a lot. Would you agree with me? Like, that building has become. Listen, I saw somebody post it. With all due respect, somebody was like, "Oh, landmark," and I'm like, "Okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit." They've been, it's not that's just longevity. But
let's slow down. Let's slow down. As somebody, you can have multiple important buildings, and Landmark was the standard keeper for 2 decades, but that's gone. I wrestled that building. I have so many fond memories. And so many of the key people who are at Landmark are now in Canton at the Action Building. And the Action Building has been huge because it has hosted shows. Hey, you ran a show there, right?
Absolutely. I did. Yeah. Hell
3
freezes
years
over.
ago or so?
It's 4 years ago, coming up on 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's an important building in the town, and not just because of wrestling, but because
Correct.
of the services that are provided out of there. And, that's an entertainment venue. They do concerts, they do fighting. And no matter what anyone says about Gary, he does tremendous personal work out of that building so to go ahead and bring up Landmark, yeah, Landmark is an important building, but so is Action Building. So to go ahead and try to run down the Canton area because of that and compare it. Come on. It's the same reason you don't really want to compare Michael Jordan and LeBron James. They were two different eras. Come on.
Yeah, off air asked me about that. I had there was a conversation about LeBron and at a show that I was at this weekend. Yeah, I just kind of like, it was weird when it was all announced. Of course, as you can probably imagine, text messages, everything kind of start coming in. Hey, what is Gary saying? What is Gary? I'm like, okay, guys, okay, I am fully aware that I have a personal relationship with Gary, but this is not something that I'm going to hit him up and ask him about because, like you said, for him and for up. The foremost issue thing he has to worry about is the church, the services, and whatever. Because as I put it in, my responses were simple. Southern Honor will be fine. They'll find a venue, and they'll be fine. It'll be a different venue. They'll be fine. Now, what does that look like for a little bit? Is there a transition period? 100%. But, Gary referenced, churches are just like the actual building's just a building. The church will move. They'll be fine. Wrestling promotions we've seen time and time again run multiple venues to go improve the fact that it's a promotion isn't just one building. However, I wanted to ask you from your perspective, one of the biggest things that makes Southern Honor is the production and the lighting and the video, all of the things that they have at their disposal in that building. Is that because somebody asked me, and I think that might be their biggest challenge to face right out of the gate. If they have to move to just one for, and especially if it's going to be here, it might be bouncing around a little bit. That's the biggest opportunity or challenge I think that they face because that kind of has been. I get it. They do great story. We all those things, but the production's always been the thing that stands out with Southern Honor.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because since day one they've had a incredibly successful building, and that's been a special building. It's the only building they've ran. So there is always a bit of a crapshoot. I do, for the record, believe that Southern Honor will end up landing on its feet. Turnaround time, if you're trying to keep to the same schedule and run a show second week of October, that's a little more difficult because you have to find the building. You have to go ahead and Southern Honor Wrestling is not the priority. Obviously, it's there every Sunday. That's the priority. So they have to go ahead and make sure they have the building. Uh, if they find the one that they like, they have to have it prepped. They have to have it exactly the way they like it. You're going to have the audio. You're going to have the seating. I do believe they will get it done. I don't think that's an issue at all. It's just going to be how long will it take time. And then the thing you can't replicate is, you can have wrestling in building for years, but there was something special about the Landmark Arena that didn't translate to many other buildings. There is something special about the Action Building. And will that translate to another building? You just don't know. And wrestling fans can unfortunately have this conversation with another top Southern Honor Star yesterday. Wrestling fans can be fickle. Any change in schedule. I mean, it could be, if the building is a 2 mile more drive, and certain fans may decide not to go. They could have restrictions in the area of what they can do and how late building can go. Will they have the ability to just have as big enough of parking lots so they can accommodate the same amount of fans? If they find a facility, it's okay, it's great, but you can only fit 200 people in. That's going to be a marked change. So there are challenges.
I got one for you. As from a promoter standpoint, you'll get this one. What if the venue says, yeah, but you can only run on Saturdays? And it's like the third Saturday, you know what I mean, or something. It's completely, because everybody's used to that. Typically, the first Friday of the month, Southern Honor runs. What if it's the second Saturday of the month? And it just like you said, people are fickle, and you can move a TV show from one channel to the next and just watch the viewers slide for a while because they're just creatures of habit.
Remember what happened in 2001? Fans of the WWF. I mean, lots of people were like, "Oh, WWF ratings are going to increase when WCW goes out of business." That didn't happen. What most WCW fans did is just turn off the channel and never watch wrestling again. So you had this gigantic segment of fans who just disappeared. Like I said, I think Gary is an incredible promoter. I'm gonna step out of the kingpin for a second. I think Gary's an incredible promoter, and I do have incredible respect for him. I had a busy weekend, and when I did find out what was going on early Sunday afternoon, I did reach out to him. I did reach out to Dylan Freimeyer just to send him hey, this sucks. If they had 6 months or more, it's a different conversation than they're having now, because you're basically at 9 weeks, and really less, because you have to be functionally, ready to go in that new building day one, and that's going to take time. So you're essentially looking at 2 months or less to be able to be set up in that new building. That's unfair. And as Gary pointed out, he believes he's going to be fine. I happen to agree with him, but there are other businesses that run out of that same center that are going to be affected. And no matter what, it is going to be some sort of disturbance in the services that Action Church provides. I'm not a religious person. I'll say that, but I respect the hell out of Gary because he is a hell of a citizen of his town, and he helps provide. I know you would know the list better than me, but he does a lot of different things. Peeling behind the curtain, he was supposed to be at the Southeast First show several years ago. It was a cold night in Canton. He said he was going to stay behind and work the warming centers. And he which he should have done. I said he was right where he needed to be. He was going to go ahead and provide for people in his town who needed it. And that's part of my worry for them on a personal level, that they're going to be interrupted and it's going to take a while to get back on track. Hopefully, hey, the other thing, too, is sometimes you have things that happen, circumstances that happen, and you end up not only on your feet, but in a far better position. I like to think that that's what's going to happen. It's going to end up, everything's going to be a better position for the facility, for Action Church, for Southern Honor Wrestling, because I have grown to respect the promotion a lot, and I've grown to respect everybody there a lot. They let me come in and have a live microphone and say whatever I want to say, which is potentially dangerous, but it's been a great relationship, and I certainly hope that it's going to be able to continue. because
Listen,
Southern.
yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
have full faith in Gary. I mean, and and Dylan and the whole team there at Southern Honor. I mean, look, I said to somebody the other day, why are we attaching the fact that the action, the church is going to be attached to the same building that Southern Honor's running in? They may not be. They may be in two
Yeah.
different venues at that point. We never know. I think because first and foremost, Gary has to take care of the church first.
Mhm.
And follow up on something. I had a conversation with somebody who kind of said something very similar. My response to when we talk about the things that it affects, I go, well, you don't have to be a very religious person to be a good human. And a lot of what he does is good human, behavior,
Mhm.
taking care of other humans on this planet. That doesn't have to do anything with just religion. So you can respect those behaviors even more so than it has anything to do with religion, in
Yeah,
my
and
thought.
I agree. And if there was a situation, and there was a similar situation where Gary made it clear, if when I was in need of something, that I could reach out to him. I know that if I texted him and said, I need 10 minutes, I have an emergency, only you can help, my phone would ring a minute later.
Yeah,
So this all bothers me on this all bothers me on a fact that they are trying to do things that they should have been able to do on a much longer time
yeah.
span. It should have been 6 months or more notice to go ahead and
And,
get set up.
and to be fair, Gary did put it out there. He's not mad that they're having to move. It was just
Oh,
a
he
short
knew.
notice they were give. They knew they were having to leave. But it was just again, like you said, it was the short notice given. But I have all the faith in the world, like I said, in Dylan, everybody involved, Southern Honor, Gary specifically, whatever. Because we're going to take the church part aside, put it over here, and say, I know Gary will do the right thing, and get that taken care of. That's the priority. When it comes to Southern Honor, they're also going to make smart decisions, and they're going to do what's best for them, whether it's in the same building, a separate building, or whatever. But that's the reason why is because there's one thing that Gary does well in his business life as well. And I wanted to ask you about this because we had a conversation about this. Why do we have faith in Gary? Because Gary's good at what? Making money.
And he's good at making the decisions that will make him money. And it's not just about making money, but when you are in a business that is profitable and people want to see it, it's a lot easier to be in business when it's actually something that you're able to benefit from and benefit others from. And if you can make the correct business decisions and just work hard, then generally things have a much better expectation of happening. And he's one of those people. He's an influencer. I don't mean on social media. I mean he's a personal influencer. He has an incredible magnetism. He has lots of friends and business connections, and heck, I envy him for that. And to step back
Absolutely.
into the kingpin character, that's why I want to take him down.
But I want to get into this a little bit of a conversation. We've talked about it in the past. Promotions in Georgia come and go. This is separating out from that conversation. Wasn't the greatest segue I've ever done, but I want to separate out into kind of conversations of promotions coming and going. And a lot of reasons why it comes down to is the money. That's why we have the faith of Gary knows how to make those decisions. Gary knows how to keep making money and make it, something that's sustainable. Would you say that's maybe potentially a weakness in indie wrestling specifically, is about being able to sustain making money and why making money actually matters?
Oh, that's the number one weakness because this happens constantly. You see promotions pop up and they have talent rosters and they have great graphics and they spend money on production and then they do everything but actually sell tickets, sell merch, attract people who want to be there. Anybody can run, I mean, because it's been done, hundreds of times that I've seen and probably thousands more. Anybody can run wrestling shows that attract attention and get look at me attention. And is it something that's going to be sustainable? I mean, I know you and I've had the conversation. You came into a situation, you wanted to run one show. You weren't scaling to run a promotion. You wanted to run one show. If somebody wants to do that and run a spot show or I want to do this once a year, I think that's a different conversation. But if you want to run on a regular schedule, like say every 2 months, you better figure out a way to become profitable in some way or you are not in the wrestling business, you are in the wrestling hobby because you're just going ahead and throwing money away. For most people, things like fantasy football, video games, Dungeons and Dragons that are hobbies, they don't make them money.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to, though, because they're hobbies. And if you aren't making money and profitable, then what are you doing? It's totally fine if you want to be a hobbyist, whether it's at a promoter, as a promoter or a wrestler. Like there's plenty of wrestlers who, hey, I am a 40 miler. I want to go have my fun on Friday nights and Saturday nights, and I want to be home by midnight every night, and that's what I want to do, and I don't have a problem with that. Um, but if you want to be something more, and if you want to keep something that's sustainable, you probably want to make money, or you better have a really good accountant who can go ahead and use your business losses against your business profits to go ahead and even everything out on paper. That's also something that's potentially legitimate if you run a promotion as a loss. I've heard stories about places who've done that, but that's far beyond most people in the Southeast. There's a scenario about, if you want to make money, wrestling is the wrong business. Well, wrestling is a business that I want to be in because it's fun. My full-time, quote unquote, shoot job is different and it's not pro wrestling. I could, if I wanted to, close up shop and walk away, and it wouldn't impact me too much financially. But action wrestling is my secondary job. It's my side hustle. It's what I want to do. This is like they talk about in Office Space. If you had, you suddenly were rich and you could do anything you wanted to do, I would want to promote and be involved in the wrestling business. I also want to make money doing it because I don't want to tell my wife, that, I lost $2,000 on Friday. I don't want to, I don't want to go ahead and have those type of conversations, and I don't want to do that. It's one thing to go ahead, of course, you have startup costs with any business, but if you can chart and keep spreadsheets, you can go ahead and be profitable. I don't understand the idea from some people that you'll never make money in wrestling and you can make more money elsewhere. It's like, well, I mean, I'm set up pretty good. The time that I put in now, I probably do extremely well. I know that I do extremely well. I'm being vague because I don't want to actually talk numbers, but I'm very happy with the time that I put in versus what I get. But I also have tried to be crafty with everything that I do. I make money on IWTV. I get that the first of every month. I get streaming money from IWTV. I have merch store. I sell merch at shows. I sell concessions at certain shows. I have sold shows that I provide entertainment for. I went to Nashville last year and earlier this year to do sold entertainment for shows. I became monetized on YouTube, and I have a payout coming soon, for example. I'm profitable. If you can't make money in pro wrestling, there's a couple options. Maybe you're just really bad at it, or maybe nobody wants to see you. You have to go ahead and consider the fact that there's plenty of wrestlers who are out there who are struggling, and so, well, why can't I this? Why can't I this? Why can't I this? And unfortunately, wrestling business is not for everybody. So if you're putting out something that people don't want to pay for, generally you're going to go out of business.
Yep.
And if that happens, it sucks, but you just have to be really, really honest with yourself. And I've always tried to be, and I feel like anybody can be successful in wrestling, even in the Southeast. I don't have to make $100,000 a year doing this, but I do make good enough to supplement my secondary job and my income.
Some of it, I have some of these conversations, and a lot of it is about a couple things. One, if you're not business savvy, get someone who is to help. Be self-aware of what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and partner with somebody who's like, hey, this is what I do well. I get somebody who's like, hey, I'm not a wrestling guy. but from a business perspective, I can keep you in the, I can keep you in the black. Okay, cool. Let's do that. If you're not good, you just like to sign. I want to book this guy. I want to book this guy. I want to book this. Here's your budget. That's what you have for the show. Like somebody that can pull you back a little bit and pull the reins versus just going crazy. Because even look, you brought up, 4 years ago, Hell Freezes over. Literally this time period right now, I was in the. We were doing it. We were getting it up. We were going to run it. It ran in September, and it was like the easy answer was just go nuts and just sign. Like, hey, let's pay this guy. Let's pay this guy. Any match you want. At some point, you finally go like. I made a judgment call and said, hey, we had a sponsor pay us I've had this conversation with privately. Hey, we're going to give you this much. And I went, that's my budget. Like, I'm not going beyond that. That is it. Anything we make ticket sales is a plus, but we're just not going to go no matter what. We're not going past that. And we had people like, hey, I'd do the show, but this is what my rate is. And I'm like, can't do it. Would love to have you. Can't do it. And you got to be able to say no at some points and just don't get caught up in the moment. And that's just, I think that's it. I think a lot of people get into it for the love, the passion, the art, which is tremendous. And I respect all of that. But at some point, that money piece has to get attached to it. You got to figure that part as well.
I think some who don't have an actual wrestling background, if you don't have a background in the wrestling business, if you don't have a business background, it's still possible you'll succeed if you're intelligent and do things smart. But if you're just somebody who wants to get in because, oh well, I want to put my booking ideas into effect, you're fucked. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I swear? I mean, you're all right. You are going to be screwed because you are doing it because you want to play Booker. You want to play like an EFED or something like that, and that's not going to get it done. You need to think like a business person. I bring my wife in on a lot of business calls or conversations simply because she will go ahead and ask questions that I'm not. Even though I am business mind oriented, I'm thinking sometimes too much about the wrestling. My wife's not into wrestling, so she's going to go ahead and have those ideas that we need to ask and we need to discuss. I think if you want to be in the wrestling for the art, you are essentially just declaring yourself a hobbyist. You can do that, but don't pretend you're going to go ahead and make money and you're in the same business I do. That I'm in, or that Gary Lamb is in, or that David Manders is in, or that QT Marshall and Scott Barnett are in. All right, that's not. You're just not. If you don't know your break even, and break even, I mean, is like, all right, well, how many tickets do you need to sell? Let's just say for ease, I have a show budgeted. I have all my expenses on this side of the spreadsheet, and it's this number in red. All right, well, what's your ticket price? Multiply it to make it equal that, and that's your break-even number. All right, my budget is $1,500. Okay, so you need to sell 100 tickets at $15, or the reverse, 150 tickets at $10, and that's your break-even. Can you possibly do that? And some people don't even think to realize, like, if they're in another building, what's reasonable to draw. They don't negotiate, they don't ask favors, or they don't just say, hey, maybe instead of running an 8 or 9 match card, I'll just run a 5 or 6 match card and see. But in short, you absolutely can make money in wrestling. I think the idea that you're not going to make money in the Southeast is weird and defeatist and just tells something about you. I mean, and you can run events at a loss. I ran my 2021 event in Tampa, WrestleMania weekend, in conjunction with ICW No Holds Barred. Lost money that show. However, it was essentially always going to lose money because that wasn't the idea. The idea was to go ahead and go in there and try to steal the weekend. And after the fact, with certain things like some merchandise and a lot of streaming, we made most of it back to the point where I essentially lost a couple $100, but I paid a couple $100 for the exposure and to go ahead and put action wrestling on a bigger scale. And that few $100 advertising investment has paid off so well. And I still have matches that are on YouTube that are monetized that bring in. So I still have some profits off that. So, that was an investment. Um,
And listen, I want to bring that up because you're bringing up like running a show. Like, hey, like I said, not even. I'm not kidding anybody. Kind of like us, we did ours. It was like, hey, we're not trying to make money. We're trying to celebrate a milestone, et cetera, et cetera. But every now and then, the show comes along that's different, unique. That you're like, hey, we understand like this show isn't going to make us tons of money, but it means more in the grand scope of things. And before we progress into the, to the later topics here, I wanted to ask you real quick. There's a huge show. Look, I get it. It's running the same night as yours, so I know
mhm.
you obviously, but center stage, summer stage, one falls running. Real quick, I wanted kind of your thoughts, opinions, and like what potentially it could mean long term for indie wrestling specifically here in Georgia.
Well, I hate that it's the same night. It's scheduling. I would love to be there. I mean, it's no surprise. I've done some ring rentals for One Fall Wrestling, and I think the world of QT Marshall and Scott Barnett. QT has done me uh, a lot of favors, and if he ever asks me something, it's a priority to respond. He's going to be on my first of anything. He's been a very good person to me, and I hope they do well. I don't know what their break even is, for example, but I know that they want to go ahead and run a big event because they run around the state. They run a lot of shows. I mean, that's how I've gotten involved in ring rentals with them. They run multiple shows per day. Last Cinco de Mayo, that Saturday, they had four going on at the same time. A couple weeks ago, between Cumming and Watkinsville, they had two going on at the same time. I know they have some other events where they're going to be running multiple events at the same time. Um, I think that if they're able to be successful, having a big show like that every summer at Center Stage would be an incredible game breaker. Lots of places have run Center Stage. I mean, ROH did TV tapings, but there. TNA in December did multiple days. Fourth Rope ran there the day before. GCW ran there in December. And there was
NXT just ran there, literally
yeah, there
like
was
a
just
week ago. Yeah, yeah.
uh but none of those are Georgia-based promotions. This is a Georgia-based promotion running Center Stage, and it's such a historic building. Hopefully it's something successful that at the end of the day, when they look at the receipts and what happened, One Fall will go back. I hope that's able to be a bigger event. And heck, I've already said, hey, as soon as you have the date, let me know. I want to be there. Because if I wasn't running an event, and unfortunately with scheduling, I couldn't move mine. That's just how it is. Like we were talking about how busy the state packs up. When we both run Fridays. Obviously, QT has a place he has to be a lot Saturdays, um, and still they do run on Saturdays. But I hope it's something that's successful, and I plan to be there if they do a sequel.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, they got Adam Priest against Jay Lethal. I cannot wait to see that match. They've got some of their homegrown guys in a steel cage match. They've got MJF doing appearance, Tony Schiavone making an appearance. I mean, that's a huge show, and I hope it does. I hope they do incredibly well. I don't know what their need for ticket sales or their expectation is, but if they're able to do that every year, my God, that's a huge
No,
event, and Georgia wrestling will
I,
just
I,
continue. Everywhere will benefit from
yeah,
it.
I wanted to specifically ask you because I had a conversation with somebody, and my take was, I don't know why anybody in the state of Georgia would not want this show to do well. Like this would be a tremendous thing for just Georgia wrestling as a whole. If it could become so successful that it became an annual event, like who would not want that for the talents here in Georgia? Like as an opportunity.
I mean, a lot of it just becomes sour grapes because they feel like they're threatened because they didn't do it. Me personally, One Fall, Southern Fried, Southern Honor, Classic City, them doing good business, in my opinion, benefits me. If One Fall has a successful show, even if somebody buys a ticket to their show and not my show, they will see a professional, successfully run independent wrestling show. And if it's the first time they ever go to an event, it's going to be crystallized in their mind that, hey, this is what independent wrestling is and what it looks like.
Correct.
If they go to a show that is shoddily run, you have a poor ring, you have out of shape wrestlers, if it looks long and laborious and it's a 3 hour show, it's really bad in the ring, people are going to think, oh, this is what independent wrestling is. That will hurt me because they will see posters for Action and not have interest because it's crystallized in their head that independent wrestling is not AEW, WWE, MLW. It's not the big time. Independent wrestling is, fat guys in t-shirts. And so, there is going to be a lot of sour grapes over other promoters doing well. I hope they kill it. Um, it has potential to be gigantic because people who see that, why wouldn't I be able to benefit from people who see independent wrestling in a good light? Why wouldn't I? It's the promoters who go out and run shows that are bad, that are low scale, that talent looks like crap, and they aren't professional about it, and they start 45 minutes late, and there's a ton of stuff on the show that doesn't need to be on the show, and people just kind of tune it out mentally. That hurts me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've stood behind for a long time. And they've done a great job. They have done a tremendous job. If you've listened to the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight, the build that they have done for this main, I even appreciate the fact that with all of these names that we see on TV that are there, they have still centrally focused on the main event. It's for their title. It's two absolute studs who look like pro wrestlers who are wrestling over the championship that matters more than anything else. Kind of have built it up to like what we like to call in Georgia wrestling a big fight. Like it has the big fight feel. This thing has been building for 4 months now. Like they've been building to this match, and they've done a great job of that. Which leads us into this month's Power 5. You coming on, I wanted to kind of get your take on something. We like to talk about big fights, the big fight feel. So I wanted to bring you on board and have a conversation about the Power 5 of 5 guys who legit, when you put them on the poster, it feels like the match just means it's a big fight. Like it's a reason people want to buy a ticket. They want to come out and see that show. Like what, I stay away from the who's a draw, because that's a whole other conversation in my opinion. But when you see these guys, particularly in the ring in a match, you're like, okay, now, business has kind of went up another notch. And I'm going to let you throw yours out first. I'm going to throw you off and not go exactly in the order of the show notes. I'm going to let you make, hey, you had one that you threw in there, and I was like, you know what? You're right. I agree. Who's that guy?
I mean, I'm very biased, but I'm biased because I can see it firsthand. It's the Action World Champion, Tim Bosby. We were in a unique situation where Tim Bosby did not win the title in the state of Georgia and had actually never wrestled in the state of Georgia. He won the title from Warhorse, who ended up being a one-day champion. He defeated Warhorse Jake Parnell in November in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the TW Arena. So a few weeks later, he's going to be in action in last December, and he's going to be defending the title. He's going to be defending the title, and he has never wrestled in this promotion before. The closest he came was the Action Futures Showcase last year in July, which was also held in Tennessee. So I've got my champion coming in. He's never wrestled here before. And he became a star in one night. And in the December show, he became a overnight star. The very next show, there were fans on the front row who had gone online and bought Tim Bosby shirts, so that when he wrestled, I believe it was Rob Killjoy, there were fans there with the Tim Bosby shirts saying, "I've seen him one time," and every time I have a match with him, it has a big fight feel. There's a few reasons for that. It's he feels like a big time wrestler. He wrestles like one. He has the look. He has the charisma. He also has a mouthpiece. He has a manager. Dylan Hales. So it's a complete package. Even at SCI this past weekend, he had two matches. He felt like a star in both. You asked me earlier about Tim Bosby and Landon Hale. People are interested to see what else he has coming up. This is a guy who fans did not get a chance to get behind. They were just, hey, here's your. I mean, that's a unique situation. I mean, wrestlers defend titles in other promotions all the time, but this one actually changed hands. So it was a situation where, like, okay, in a couple weeks, you're going to meet this new wrestler, and he's the new Action World Champion. And you better get familiar with him really quick.
Yeah.
And since then, he's defended the title in Tennessee, Alabama, Illinois, possibly Arkansas. I mean, he's wrestled and defended it in a lot of different places. So yeah, he's going to be my guy because when his match announcement comes out, it always attracts attention.
And he's done well since winning. I think there was a lot of hesitation when I first saw he won. I'm like, oh wait, who's this? Like you said, no introduction, and then but coming along and having matches with guys who's like the next guy on our list, Cruel, kind of set that up that you're like, okay, he clearly is a big time player and stuff like that. But of course, look, Cruel is a different creature all of itself, no pun intended there, where he is just literally like, he is so different than anything you're going to get anywhere. But it's the entire package. It's the size, it's the strength, it's the character, all of the package that you get. But because he is now just Cruel has almost become the myth of Georgia. Like, you don't see him as much as we used to, but that's a good thing for me. That's as weird as that is to say. That's a good thing.
It is a good
when
thing.
He shows up.
It is a good thing because the person behind the mask has put a lot, and I mean a lot of thought into everything. I'm talking about every piece of gear going out to the ring, everything about how they walk and react and what they do, how they present themselves. And that's a good thing. Cruel is a regular at Wrestling Revolver, which runs in based out of, I think, is it Iowa or no, Ohio, but they run shows all over the country. Beyond Wrestling, Wrestling Open, he's a mainstay for ICW No Holds Barred, which has shows all over the country. So it is special when Cruel makes appearances. Heck, what was the reaction like when he came out a couple weeks ago at Southern Honor? He was he's been a surprise opponent at Action. At the anniversary show, we didn't announce Cruel versus Tim Bosby, but we have Tim Bosby out there. When Cruel comes out there, when that music starts, you see fans get out of their seat and have visual facial reactions to that music. And it's like, because there's delayed reaction before he comes out, it's like, is he really here? He is really here. And it's a moment. And then the bell rings. And he's also a tremendous wrestler because it's everything before the bell and after the bell. So yeah, he's a complete stud. Yeah. He's beat me up and chokeslammed me many times, so I'm reluctant to say it, but yes, he is a stud.
Look, another guy on the list is a guy that I've seen him fight multiple places, and that is Joe Black. Joe Black is kind of become, he's another one of those just like, it's funny, I want to say he's like the black cloud that floats through, again, no pun intended, it literally came out that way, that floats across Georgia, but when it's like, hey, we need our guy in our promotion, we need a match that makes him, that can, that elevates him up to be this across the state. And I had that conversation with a young man. Well, he's not young man; he's younger than me. Kevin Cantrell and Kraken. We're trying to make everybody see who he can be and what it is. You bring Joe Black in, and then they tear the house down at Kraken, and you're like, but that's what Joe Black does. At the same time, at Southern Honor, but he's not above wrestling his brothers in the hierarchy. You know, he put a match on with Kenway, and they just went out there and beat the fire out of each other, and literally it was a tremendous match. But Joe Black is kind of that another one of those legends in Georgia that just kind of, when you see him especially put up against the top guy in your promotion, like, okay, this is one you want to see.
Joe Black is a great measuring stick because you have a lot of wrestlers who aspire to be something in the ring as a competitor. And Joe Black is going to test that. He really is. He is going to make you work in the ring, and he's going to make you earn it. Flip side of that is when you do earn it, you really have earned somebody's respect, because he is respected throughout the state. And he's one of those people that even if you have fans in a fan base who aren't familiar with Joe Black, you put up a picture of Joe, he's immediately just like Cruel, just like Tim. He's immediately got that I'm interested.
Yeah.
And part of that is the power of the promo picture. He takes great pictures, and he looks like this is a guy, and I want to pay to see what he does. And you can do a lot with people like that. The door is wide open as a promoter. He can come in as a top guy day one, or he can come in and build his way up and get over.
He also has a unique ability that I try to stress when I talk to a lot of promoters. Book him and have him cut a promo that airs the show before he comes. His promo technique is just completely different. So, not sure. I'm not saying it's just the details that he can pull and the storytelling he tells in a promo are so good. That's what I tell him. Don't bring him in cold. Book him. Get him to cut a promo, air it at your show if you have that ability before he comes, and I promise you that promo will sell tickets to the next show. And that's a big one.
You want to have people sometimes and this is a total sidebar, different conversation, but I want to be on your show. I want to be a wrestler. And all right, well, what do the promo pictures look like? How do you talk? Are you somebody who will get any interest whatsoever? I have lots of people who approach me, and I'm like, nothing about these pictures speaks to me. If this isn't fair because I know Joe, but let's just say that it's somebody else, and they send in pictures that are very much like Joe Black's, and they send a video, and it's someone built like him with that demeanor, with that look, his ability to talk. I'm going to be interested in seeing what they do. That's not the case with everybody on wrestling shows. Some people are just spot fillers. Joe is a guy.
Joe is a human version of Wolverine coming from a comic book guy. Like the short, the stocky, like I'm just going to rip you to shreds. No, that's just Joe Black.
It's credible that Joe Black can fight anybody.
Yeah. Let's keep pressing on here. Drago and Ilya Drago and Brady Booker. I kind of put them on the same line because kind of leading the story we talked about, Center Stage show, the summer stage one fall show, is essentially, again, built. This is your main event in a steel cage, months and months and months. They've done such a great job. It's kind of why I've cheated here and paired these two together. These guys are the draw. They're the top ticket. Like, yeah, it's going to be, you can go meet MJF and you can, meet Tony Schiavone, but they're not getting in the ring and wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what wrestling are we going to see? We've been waiting for this match for months.
I'm interested to see what happens. I'm interested to see about the show. I can guarantee you Friday night, I know you're going to this. I'm going to be messaging you after my show once Teardown is done. It's like, hey, how'd it go? What happened? I'm really interested. I think both these are both tremendous talents that you put on a poster. Again, I did see Drago a couple weeks ago against Barry Morales, and God, I've seen him before, but God, he's so impressive. He's like that, everything you want a wrestler to look like. Larger than life. He's in shape. It's like he's also got that, God, how did he do that factor with some of what he pulls off in a wrestling ring?
Mm-hmm.
Booker is obviously a tremendous athlete as well, super charismatic, and he's, a lot of the same things that I just said about Trago. So, I think those two have extremely bright futures, and they are working basically every week for one fall, and doing really good stuff. I hope I hope they tear the house down. I hope they have the match Friday night that they want to have.
Same here. Last but absolutely not least, who I plead the case here on the if he counts as a Georgia wrestler, which I think he's put in the time now that he does. Obviously, he wrestles enough. Carly Bravo. I argue that I think anytime he's on a poster, look, I was an early adopter to Carly Bravo, way back when, and I just still to this day I think his strength, as I always say, Carly Bravo has it. Whatever that is, he has it, and it comes through the screen, and it comes through the energy in the building. The second the music hits, and he comes out like yeah, that's when things pick up, and this is about to be this. You're about to enjoy this ride here for the next 5 to 30 minutes, depending on how much time he is from the curtain to curtain.
Yeah, again, it's you. He comes out, and you want to watch him. That's the first part. You want to watch him. You want to see him because he draws you in. He's got a incredible charisma that you cannot teach. And then when the bell rings, he can really go. He doesn't disappear into his charisma. I don't know if that makes sense, but he doesn't rely off it. He's an incredible wrestler. He moves at a fast pace. It's like you're seeing sequences from a Marvel movie. It's like you're seeing superhero stuff. I mean, he did a favor several months ago. He came in and worked Land and Hail on a morning's notice because of the hurricanes. I had talent who couldn't make it in September, and when reaching out to people, hey, Carly's like, yep, all right. So we had Carly Bravo versus Land and Hail on no notice. I mean, I think we were able to put out a promo photo a few hours before, like, hey, this is now the match going to take place. Instantly won everybody over, and that is something that's very hard to teach. But if you want it and you have the talent, and I know he wants it, I know he wants to make the Georgia scene as good as he can. Obviously, he has obligations with Sean Dean on television, which is awesome. But think about it like this: you have a television wrestler who also wants to continue to be on shows. And for example, TWE Crash Course last week had the Infantry versus the Lemon Pepper Princes, Adam Priest and Darian Bankston, on a Monday night show with a ticket price of $5. They don't have to take those bookings. They want to take those bookings. I mean, Carly Bravo is definitely somebody who is not as good as he is going to be.
Correct.
He has still, despite the fact that he's on TV, despite everything, he still has a lot of room to improve, which is great, because if you don't have that factor and you look at somebody, it's like, this is as good as they're going to be. The only place you can look is downhill.
That's absolutely something I mentioned to somebody. The scary part about Carly Bravo is, as good as he is right now, I still think he's going to be way better, and that's a huge plus for him. Hey, let's get going here. I see we're running long. I don't know how much time you've got left to join us here. But we had a bunch of questions sent in, and we may not get to all of them. I apologize to everybody that sent the letters if we do not get to them. But let's just try to rapid fire through some of them, and I'll try to look ahead through them and get the ones that jump in here. Let's start with Terry from Carrollton. What's the biggest change you've seen in the Georgia indie scene since Action launched?
Well, we launched in 2018, and I would say just the proliferation of more shows. I started running on Fridays, and nobody really was running on Fridays at the time. There were certain shows. Southern Fried had the first and third Saturday. Anarchy had the second and fourth. So, for example, Friday nights were almost by default, if I wanted talent and I wanted to be able to rent a ring, open. Now you have Southern Honor, and to be fair, the reason Southern Honor and Action haven't conflicted is because we keep in touch on making sure that we don't book each other's dates. You have One Fall. There are other shows that are running a lot of Fridays. And Southern Honors debuted, they had their first show 6 months after we did. And, you can say that 2018 was one of the biggest years in Georgia wrestling because the two of our promotions opened up. And when we started, for example, Scenic City in 2015, the Georgia scene was completely different. So it has built and built, and there are more promotions opening up. And not just promotions, but promotions of quality. You don't have to have the best, but you have to be good for what you're trying to aspire to. So I just think the fact that there are so many more places for wrestlers to work. I mean, another example, the Royston Dome opened up in the last couple of years for business, for outside promotions. I know they've been wrestling in that town every Friday night for years, and that's continued, but there's other promotions that are able to run out of it. So, yeah, it's the last 7 years, so many more spots have opened up that are of high quality. Classic City is new since 2018 as well.
Victor from Savannah, are there any wrestlers that you regret not getting to action before they got signed?
I will say there's a couple. We had Cody Vance, now Preston Vance, who was scheduled to be booked on a show. He got injured. He was set to debut, and then COVID hit. I had Lee Johnson, who was scheduled for that same show that COVID hit. I wish we had been able to get more bookings with Austin Theory. We had him for one show. And I'm not sure if you can. I mean, behind the scenes, I'll tell you, we had Jay Malachi, Siobhan Evans booked after he did our Futures showcase. We had him booked, but then it had been made clear to him that he probably shouldn't take bookings. And he signed, and he was supposed to be on the same October show that Brogan Finley had his final match and made a speech. So I would say probably I wish that it had worked out with Jay Malachi, that he could have made an appearance before Javon Evans. He was booked, but he got signed. Hey, that's a good thing for me. Absolutely. I will happily take a wrestler canceling because, hey, I can't tell you what I'm doing, but I can't make your show. Good.
Enough said, right? Enough said. Yeah.
Yep.
Sam from Tifton wants to know, what questions do you think promotions should ask? I think it's supposed to be wrestlers. Maybe he typo. Do wrestlers should ask themselves before they reach out to a promotion?
Figure out what that promotion is. Be honest with yourself and watch and see if you match up with what they produce. Now, maybe it's like, hey, I can offer this that promotion is lacking, and I can emphasize it. But you have to make sure what you do will still fit into that scene. Are you good enough in the ring? That's going to be a big one. Familiarize yourself with the products. Like, don't message me, don't message Dylan Freimeyer and ask, hey, what nights do you run? Because if you can't tell from looking at our schedules or our posters that we pretty much only run Fridays, that's like you haven't done your homework thing. Yeah. I think it's like, hey, what can I offer? Because I have had wrestlers reach out, and the way they talk, it's like, well, I've been reaching out, and and this and that. It's like, but I don't owe you anything. I hate to say it. There are wrestlers who have done things for me that I do owe, but somebody just messaging me out of the blue, I don't. So just make sure you put yourself of service. If you can make it to a show and meet people, yeah, that gives you a super leg up. If I know, I'm more likely to book somebody I know and I already have a good impression of.
Correct. He also asked, just wanted to throw this one, in your experience, what are some of the toughest challenges that action wrestling had to work through, and what did you do to overcome them?
Oh, that's a huge question. We landed on our feet from the pandemic better than a lot of promotions because we were able to run shows starting September 2020 in our building. They were limited crowd-wise, but we were able to run shows. And because of the structure of the way we were set up, I didn't have a building that I owned rent on. I didn't have a storage facility. The pandemic wasn't costing me money in terms of bills. It was just costing me money in the fact that I couldn't run shows and make it. I think the biggest challenges have been production-wise. Often, you go into buildings and you're trying to figure out the lighting with working with what they have. Sometimes you just don't have the time, because if I get into a building at noon, there's only so much setup I can do. To me, a show doesn't start at bell time. To me, a show starts at doors opening. So I don't have, for example, noon to 7:30 to do setup. I have noon to 6:30 because there are fans who are coming in the building at 6:31. So I think I would say probably the productions and some of the building challenges. You can also find out, hey, we can do this, and small, you think of the small businesses that can get abused. We've had rugs pulled out from, I won't get into any specifics, but we've had some rugs pulled out from under our feet that were very, very frustrating, because I'm a man of my word. Not everybody is. And that's frustrating when you have to learn who is not going to own up to what they said.
Correct. Last but not least on his questions, is it true Scott Hensley wears lifts in his shoes?
Oh God, could you imagine? He would be another 2 inches taller if he did. I almost want to make him go out barefoot and just shoot him from the waist up so that he's not taller than a wrestler.
Some of these others we've kind of answered in some of our conversations, so I'm going to bounce around a little bit.
Hit
But
me.
Tyler for Columbus.
I'll give quick answers.
Yeah. Are there any upcoming wrestlers you think the Georgia scene is sleeping on right now?
Yes, but there are reasons that oftentimes they are being slept on. And the reason they're being slept on is because, like, when I bring somebody to Action, if I have 7 matches and one of them's a tag, that's 16 wrestler spots. I already have the Tim Bosby, Bobby Flacco, Alex Kane, Shug D, The Wall, Darian Bankston, Adam Priest, who are pretty much going to be on every show that they're available, for example. And there are several others. So I'm not looking to book you for one of 16 spots. I'm looking to book you for one of 2 or 3 spots. So it's going to get very, are you in the best shape? Are you in the best gear? Are you reliable? Is your attitude? Are you willing to go ahead and come in on a trial basis? But more specifically for what I do with IWTV, do people know you outside of your town? Are fans aware of you? If I put you on a graphic and announce wrestler number 1 debuting, does that mean anything? Because when I book a wrestler, I'm looking to book everything. I'm booking your social media. I'm booking the fan base you already have. I'm booking the fan base that you're building. I need to look at what can you do for me. And Nick, I have so many wrestlers wanting to come in. I have wrestlers who drive in from other states just to meet and hang out. And some of them have done things in their areas and are building that social media recognition. So if I put them on something, if I put them on a show, they will have interest generated. Because when I book wrestlers from other areas, for example, or new to me, I want to go ahead and convert people who don't really follow or know Action to Action fans. If you can't do that for me, yeah, I'm sleeping on you. Gladly and willingly. You need to build what you bring to me. And having been a wrestler myself, I completely understand all those things I was told 20, 25 years ago about that. I need somebody to bring the best version of themselves possible and come with their own base that they can use Action as a building block. This should not be a destination. It should be a building block.
Kind of want to follow up to that. Logan sent in an email, and it said, as a promoter, what qualities and skills do you look for and value the most when it comes to non-wrestling? crew members? Like, as far as like, is it camera? Is it any other, like ring? I don't know what, just anything outside the ring, the crew that you use, somebody that's trying to get into it who's not a wrestler. Kind of the
Um,
same.
I mean, well, first off, I'll say, I mean, it could also mean ring announcers, managers. I mean, you have to be really, really good. I mean, to me, the two best managers in the state of Georgia have both developed the last 2 years. I'm going to be perfectly honest and toot my own horn. The two best managers in the state of Georgia are myself as the kingpin and the AD Dylan Hales. Um, I need somebody who can go ahead and add and attract and pull in attention and then throw it to that wrestler. That's what I do with Gunnar Miller, Southern Honor. If that's what Dylan Hales does with Tim Bosby here, New South TWE, we pull in that attention and throw it on to our wrestlers. We build heat so that we can go ahead and have interest. I'll
And
just say
I
that
think
because you
though,
could also mean that.
gotcha.
But
I'm Logan. I apologize if I'm not here, but I'm also going to follow. But I think is he talking about like camera crew, ring crew, set whatever,
it's
like the
it's going to come down to reliability because you have, it's like, all right, when do you need me there? 5 o'clock. I cannot get a message if you will basically list yourself forever if I get a message at 6:30 saying you're not going to be there, saying, oh well, this came up. That happens a lot of time. I need people who are reliable. I need people who will go ahead and put this first, because
yeah,
this is a
no, makes
business.
sense. I mean, that's I think, especially on the schedule, and there's enough other plates spinning that you can't juggle that. Like, something as simple as other people showing up.
Yeah.
Amy, she sent in an email, said, "Hey, just tell Matt he's appreciated if he doesn't know that." I think she said you would know who she is. And I wanted to end it on this one. It's kind of why I jumped around. James from
Oh, come
Atlanta
on, ask me some
asked,
more. Ask me some more. Yeah,
well, no,
I'll
this one's a
rapid
pretty.
fire
This
it.
is a pretty big one. James from
Okay.
Atlanta said, "What legacy do you want Action Wrestling to leave in Georgia and then beyond Georgia?"
I want people to see that Action Wrestling came in, established themselves, and as quickly as we could, took a place in the national landscape. Uh, I love Georgia wrestling, but I don't want to just be known as a Georgia level promotion that runs and then that show ends and it exists only then. I want people to be able to go back and watch um, on IWTV. I want people to I want people to pick up Pro Wrestling Illustrated and read our rankings, read our results, see pictures, see our champion. I want to inspire and be able to help push our wrestlers. I've gotten some of our wrestlers booked overseas, for example. I'm not taking credit for that. They did that themselves. I was able to help give them that last push to get over there. But I want them to go ahead and expand and continue to build their careers and not just see this as another place to work. I want Action to be a part of the national landscape that helped wrestlers and helped Georgia wrestling become more than it has been before we got here.
Absolutely. Before we plug in and give you the last pitch on our remind everything, I'm going to get my last pitch in here. Make sure you're subscribing over on the Patreon page. If you're a YouTube watcher, we get it. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, turning that notification bell, all that good stuff. But all the absolute home of all homes for the Tapped Out Podcast is patreon.com/tapped out pod. I rattled off earlier all the extras you get, so I'm not going to go through all that again. But if, specifically those Tapped Out collectibles. But before we got out of here, I wanted to make sure, Matt, one more good pitch. Friday, big show, Line Creek, Fayetteville. Kind of, are tickets still available? This thing will drop on Wednesday, so they still probably got any time to buy them online ahead of time, or?
Yep, Fayetteville, Georgia, Line Creek Brewing Bus Barn is our PG-13 show. It is a brewery, but all ages are welcome. I just advertise as a PG-13 show because there's beer. Line Creek has incredible beers. Doors is 6:30, bell time is 8:30. The website for tickets is action-wrestling.com. You can also watch all the Action Wrestling shows on IWTV.live. Promo code ACTION. There's also other promotions on there like Scenic City Invitational, Southern Honor Wrestling, New South out of Alabama. And Those are great. Those are great because you can go back and look at how we've built. You can go back and watch the first show and see everything that we have built up to. You can follow us on Twitter at Wrestle Action and then the number one. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Action Wrestling and the number one. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/Action Wrestling. Please like and subscribe.
Absolutely, man. Listen, if you're not going to Center Stage, which is where I will be, Matt will be obviously he will be at the Action Show in Fayetteville. Tons of wrestling all this weekend. 13 shows this weekend alone that I'm tracking. So look, other than listening to us, the other great way to support indie wrestling, as we always tell you, go out, buy a ticket, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see you at the matches.